Right. So, as folks, capitalism cannot be fixed are the host for this. I just wanted to talk about how, capitalism and CANSEC, how CANSEC is a manifestation of the capitalist system that we live in currently, as the slide lays out. So, in terms of exploitation, under capitalism, there's the working people, the wage exploitation, which is the accumulation of exploitation. Then there's the privatization of public services, accumulation through dispossession. Then there's colonialism and theft of indigenous land, accumulation by displacement, and from wars, repression and genocide, which is accumulation by militarization. So the militarization, oh, did I lose it or is it still there?
Can still see it just fine.
Okay. For some reason, I lost it. Just give me a second. Um, hmm. Oh, there. So yeah, and then militarization is also accumulation that can be understood as a global capitalist economy requiring the state to launch wars, repress communities at home and abroad. And it's a way of bringing profits to transnational corporations. And the war industry has also been used as a way to stimulate economies, as we can remember, in post World War II, even during the Depression era, and in both aspects of destruction and reconstruction of the economy and the world, the benefit, the profits mostly go to corporations, transnational corporations, and not to the people themselves. And I just wanted to share this quote from Rosa Luxemburg: militarism in both its forms, as war and as armed peace, is a legitimate child, a logical result of capitalism, which can only be overcome with the destruction of capitalism. So this is the context I wanted to talk about shut down CANSEC and the campaign we are waging. Um, Although I am here as ILPS Canada, which has an anti-imperialist perspective, the broader shutdown committee brings together different people from different aspects, from faith-based, from liberation movements, from individuals who just want to care about people and their city. So Shutdown CANSEC is a more broader sort of coalition and collection of people and organizations who are helping put together a campaign, not only this year, but with the perspective of a long-term plan to eventually shut down CANSEC, not only in Ottawa, but in anywhere in the country. So moving forward, hmm, I'm not sure why it's not going forward. Oh, let me try again. Oh, so what is CADSI? CADSI, which is a short form for Canadian Association of Defense and Security Industry. It acts as the national voice for the weapons industry. So it was set up in 1983. Right now, it represents more than 1,000 member organizations. Some of them are listed here, and some of its major organizations that are member of it are directly involved in the genocide in Gaza, such as Base Systems, General Dynamics, even an Elbit, which is a Israel-based company, is also a member of CADSI. And as you can see on the slide, it's a government-funded weapons lobby, so it has been getting millions of dollars of support from the government in the previous years, and even as recent as 2025. And what is CANSEC? It's the largest weapons trade show, and which is basically we call it is it's uh, uh, um, a get together of weapons of mass destruction. It enables industries who commit genocide and brings about 15,000 registrants from all over the world, including military leaders, governments, officials, weapons dealers. And this is where a lot of the weapons and digital and other AI equipments are shown with the tagline that they're battle tested, particularly weapons company like Elbit system, which in effect means battle tested is that it was tested on the people in Gaza and in Palestine, and that is pretty horrific. So this year there are about 300 plus exhibitors at the CANSEC, and some of them we've named here: Elbit Systems, Rochelle Defense Solutions, Basis and General Dynamics, Lockheed Martin, and as you can see, all of them in one way or other are engaged in the oppression and in the genocide in Gaza and Palestine. So very important for us that we highlight the atrocity that is happening in Canada, in Ottawa, by putting this convention together and allowing these war criminals to come together and make these deals to further oppress the world and the people of the world. This is one of their program. We got a hold of their program this year, and it shows some of the countries, like 60 plus international delegations, 600 VIPs, generals, top military and government officials. And you can see by the flags there that Israel is there. Some of the countries who have really bad human rights track record, like Pakistan and Philippines and Saudi Arabia. And then also a lot of the imperialist countries that are there, such as Japan, Germany, France, whatnot. So most of them will have their top officials or some kind of delegation present at the CANSEC. Yeah, so reasons to shut down CANSEC. I think the crowd here probably already understands why such a thing needs to be shut down. But as we talk to people and as we're trying to get more community members and on the ground people engaged in this, we try to make the connection that, it's directly related to the well-being of the people here and abroad. It continues wars of aggression. It supports a lot of the countries that commit human rights violations. The military budgets could go to helping working families, with the cost of living. Instead of going to defense budget, the money could go to education and health and whatnot. And then also, like, the profiting from these things is mostly transnational corporations and not the common people. So that's part of our, as we do CANSEC presentations and education and flyering and talking to people, we try to bring it closer to home, that why it matters to everybody in Canada, in the city, and others. So the Shutdown CANSEC campaign overview. So just a little bit of history. In the past, it was called the ARMX, and it used to be in Lansdowne, which is an area near downtown in the Glebe in Ottawa. And the last protest that happened had about 300 protesters and 200 arrests. And the city was able to shut it down because they passed a bylaw that these conventions can't happen in the city anymore. And then that bylaw expired, I believe, sometime in early 2000s, and the current mayor did not support the renewal of it. And most people didn't even realize that this was happening. It hadn't faded from the memory of a lot of the folks in Ottawa. And then it's some of the smaller pickets started to start again in mid 2000 and 2019 and whatnot, to bring awareness to this. So then in 2022 is when it became a little bit more visible to not just to folks in Ottawa, but in other cities as well. And especially, I think ILPS got involved in 2022. So the tactics were a bit more, it says revolutionary there. A comma very kind to put it revolutionary. Protest there, but it just became more higher number, more confrontationals. We were able to block the parking lot with banners and whatnot. And since then, the tactics have been increasing in 2024 and in 2023. And more police presence is there, so more arrests, more tactics of the protesters have also have changed. Just not like doing picket line, trying to block the road, some direct action, all that kind of thing. And last year, we were able to block the road from two different sides. Rachel was there as well. It was an exciting time, and there was increased police presence and violence. We had 11 arrests on the on at the I believe if I'm wrong, Rachel can correct me. 11 arrests at the protest, and then three were afterwards. In October, I believe, their houses were raided and they were arrested. So sort of tells you how they're closely following. So the protesters and making arrests even after the event has taken place and has wrapped up. So this year we are doing even better prep. We have to be more prepared for the repression. As we want to increase our numbers and as we want to strengthen the campaign, the authorities and the people in power are going to also come down really strong. So you will see their requests for, support the legal defense fund, to request for in terms of sending contingents and more people has been coming out. So if folks can help with that and spread the word, that would be great. So these are the four demands that the Shutdown CANSEC campaign has been promoting. Defund CADC, two-way arms embargo, and the Canada-Israel Free Trade Agreement, and the criminalization of peaceful protesters. So those have been our demand that we have been putting it out there. This year, we are hoping to get 1,000 people. It is a mindset. If there were 3,000 in 1989, I'm sure we can get to 3,000 one day. So we wanted to put a challenge to the communities and organizations to support in bringing 1,000 people to the protest this year. So you can follow us on Shutdown CANSEC as more posts, more information, and call for supports come out so people can amplify that. Also, what is happening is so their ILPS is conducting the 3 days of anti-imperialist activities around Shutdown CANSEC. So on May 26th is a political conference on against Canadian imperialism, uniting for socialism. In the evening is a solidarity night, and then on the 27th will be the actual assembly. And then in the afternoon are caucuses on migrant workers, youth, women, and liberation movements. And then on the 28th is when we are mounting the major protest at the EY Center at 7 a.m. And we hope we have 1,000 people there. And, I hope most of you can make it there or spread the word to get people there. Sort of a timeline in terms of how the campaign started this year. We had our general meeting in March, early March. We've been doing mass work, recruitment, community meetings, postering, training sessions. They are going on right now for medics, for marshals, training, and also some fundraising as well. And then, the D-Day is May 28th. So ways to participate, as I already mentioned, we are asking organizations to endorse and sign the letters. Here, the code. So we've reached out to many organizations nationally, locally, and internationally. I hope we get more and more people engaged and aware of this campaign and what's happening in Ottawa. And then we will we'll do communication on the organizations that are supporting this, not just in name but also in sending contingent to the CANSEC, but also to with the Legal Defense Fund. So yeah, so invite us to talk to your meetings to talk about CANSEC, organize a group to be at CANSEC, and ask for donation or to pass a hot cargo resolution, particularly for locals and unions. So around those 3 days, there is also on the 27th in the evening, a peaceful, faithful gathering that are going to protest on the 27th. There is also a bus tour happening. Their poster wasn't ready in time for this webinar, but there will be during the day a bus tour that will go to the different weapons companies in Ottawa and sort of talk about, a bit about who they are and what kind of human rights violations they're engaged in. And then in the evening or late afternoon is this faith gathering. And then, as I mentioned, then on also during that time is the ILPS conference on 26 and 27. And the big day that we are all organizing towards, May 28th, 7 a.m. at EY Center. So again, I hope as many people can and able to make it. That will be great. That was all from me. Any questions?
Yeah, thanks, Yasmin. If there's any direct questions right now about the details around that or anything Yasmin just said, please raise your hand. Okay, we got a couple, but just want to say out of interest of time, please try and keep your questions or comments to 3 minutes or less, and then so we still have a second guest to speak. So let's not get too carried away here before that. But I will ask Fargo for your question.
Hello. Thank you so much, Yasmin. I hope you guys can hear me. I just thank you for the wonderful presentation. You said that there are I think you said 60 countries that are attending the CANSEC convention. I was wondering if you could point out some of the countries, notable South American, African, and GCC countries that will be joining.
Oh, good point. Actually, we haven't noted them, but I will ask the research committee definitely look into that and we can share that. We've been more focused on some of the Asian and like the European countries. But we definitely can ask because I know there's Saudi Arabia.
I have
I
the
don't know
info,
if you,
Yasmin, if you want.
pardon?
I can share the countries that are attending that we've identified so far, if that's helpful.
Okay. Oh yeah, go ahead. Yes, Rachel is good at this. Her research is
Yeah, so I
awesome.
mean, this is of countries that are sending delegations. So some of the ones that we've identified is in alphabetical order: Argentina, Australia, Chile, Colombia, Denmark, France, Germany, Israel, Italy, Jamaica, Japan, South Korea, Luxembourg, Mexico, Norway, Pakistan, Peru, Philippines, Romania, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, Sweden, Switzerland, Taiwan, Turkey, Ukraine, UAE, UK, New Zealand. You know what? I think I skipped Hungary, but we recently identified Hungary as well. So these are just ones that are sending kind of like official country delegations, and I'm sure it's not comprehensive. I may also have not mentioned the US, but that's kind of obvious.
Obvious, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I just wanted to note that this is primarily a European, North American endeavor. Is that correct? I only heard Argentina and China, I think, that are not.
No, you know what? I can try and copy paste the list in. Like just within Latin America, there's Argentina, Chile,
Like
Colombia,
Mexico.
Peru, Mexico, like just within Latin America. So, but there's less African country delegates, is a fair
Yeah.
observation.
Interesting. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Fargo. I'll pass it to Ted next.
Okay, thanks so much. Hi, everyone. I haven't been able to make it out to these events, so it's good to be back with my friends. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions. One, I am in Ottawa, and it's similar to what the chat was there. If there's a link for more of the details, if you have a link for a website where I can study that afterwards, that would be really helpful. I'll just pause. Is a place where I can see the slides and see some of the details afterwards, or?
The slides can be shared. Grace, if you want, I'll send you the updated slides if you want to send it out to everybody. It's information for everyone. What I can share right now is the shutdown CANSEC IG on the Instagram. So that's where a lot of our information goes. We are working on a website, so as soon as that's up and running, we will. I can share that with Grace too, and you can send it out to the participants.
Thank you
Thank you,
so
Rachel,
much.
for sharing the IG in the
Okay,
chat.
I'll check it out. And I just have a couple of questions, and maybe Rachel will speak to it as well. Like, I'm just still a bit nervous going to protests because of my anxiety level and my health issues. So I was
Mhm.
just wondering if there are, sorry, was somebody interrupting or? Okay, I just was going to ask if there's, maybe Rachel will speak or there'll be discussion about this afterwards for training for people like me who want to step out but need more training to do direct action. That's one question I have. The second question is I have quite a few people in my circle who are libertarians who seem to be strongly opposed to, let's say, the Ukraine war, for example, but they're not anti-capitalist. And I was just wondering if you can speak, or Rachel can speak, about building coalitions with people who are anti-war but might not share or fully understand why capitalism is inherently militaristic. And I pass with that.
Mhm. So for your last question, yeah, ILPS is anti-imperialist, and that's one alliance that I'm representing. The other alliance that I'm representing is the Shutdown CANSEC coalition or Shutdown CANSEC committee, and that doesn't have any particular ideological bent. It's anybody who's anti-war, is for peace, is against what's happening in genocide, can be part of that shutdown committee and help out with that. So that broader committee and work is it doesn't, you don't have to be anti-capitalist or anti-imperialist and whatnot. And they're like people from faith-based, people from migrants the community, people from different diaspora community, people from climate justice, youth and whatnot. So if you check our IG, you can send messages there on Shutdown CANSEC if there are people who want to be interested. Also on the IG, to your first question, there are trainings set up coming up in May, both for Know Your Rights and also for other trainings in terms of to prepare for the protest. And I think the Shutdown Cancer Committee and ILPS both will send out advisories as well. So particularly those who have signed up and given us, their information. The advisory, for example, some of the protesters that will come are, migrant workers or undocumented workers who will have precarious status in terms of their immigration status. There are some youth coming who are under 18 as well. So, our advice to them is, your situation best in terms of how you want to engage in the protest. But if you are at the protest, the safest thing is to then stay on the sidewalk and not necessarily join the folks that will try to hold the banners and try to block the road and whatnot, or also try to be at the back of the crowd, not necessarily the frontliners who are blocking with the banners and everything. So those are some of our advice to people who have precarious situations or are underage and things like that. Yeah, I hope that was helpful.
Thanks, Yasmin. We'll take two more questions and then we'll pass it to Rachel to give a talk. We'll do Barry next.
Good evening, comrades and friends. This is Barry from the Capitalism Can't Be Fixed and from Socialist Action. We're very pleased to endorse the latter, very pleased to endorse the CANSEC protests taking place. And my question will center on exactly what's happening during the 3 days that you indicated. The information just flew right by pretty fast. So it
Yes,
doesn't hurt to repeat important, worthwhile endeavors. So I'm going to ask you to do that. But I just wanted
sure.
to make an observation. The business of capitalism is war. And unfortunately, business is very, very good. And the measure of our success is the extent to which we can put the ruling rich and their war machine out of business. So that's what this protest will occur in that context. Also, increasingly, protest is becoming illegal. And I'm one of 41 people who have been arrested recently at protests against the war against Iran, waged by the Zionist state and Washington, and opposition to what's happening with the Palestinian people, the genocide in Gaza, which is now extending across the West Bank and into Lebanon and Syria and beyond. So it's a very dreadful situation indeed. So I come back to my questions. You indicated that the pinnacle of the protest, if I can put it that way, is on Thursday, the 28th of May. But I understand there's some things happening in the days before that. Socialist Action, Ligue pour l'Action Socialiste members in Ottawa and Montreal will be going to participate with you at the CANSEC protest. And we wish you every success and continue the struggle. The struggle continues.
Thank you, Barry. Yeah, so just to overgo, so I mean, it's an exciting time too, 26, 27, 28, 3 days, and a lot is happening. I remember, Rachel, remember in 2022, we started, we were just like one day, 3 hours in the morning. That's all we could do. So I am so glad that there are people who want to do for all the 2, 3 days. And so we sort of have called it like 3 days of activities, anti-imperialist activities. So May 26th is the ILPS conference, the political conference on against Canadian imperialism, uniting for socialism, which will happen from 9 to 6 p.m. Folks have to register in order to get the location, and that's mostly because of the security issues. We are very closely tied to shut down CANSEC, so we want to avoid any kind of infiltration from the authorities or any kind of issues. Because last time when we had a political conference in 2022, the Zionists had complained to the city, and we got a call. They wanted to cancel our event, and we assured them that this was not an anti-Semitic or anti-Semitic or racist or any that kind of event. So we were able to go through with it. So to avoid those kind of things, and given that ILPS is very closely related with the Shutdown CANSEC campaign, we just request people to register in order to get the information of where the political conference will take place in Ottawa. It is in downtown, but the exact address folks will get once they register. So that's May 26th. Then May 27th, a number of things are happening. One thing is in the morning is our ILPS assembly. At the same time in the morning is the bus tour that will go to different weapons companies. That information is being finalized, and as soon as we have a poster, I can again share that with Grace and Jasmine, and that can be shared with everybody. In the afternoon, two things are happening as well. There are political caucuses, which is also downtown, and you will get that information once you register as well. So there's caucuses on youth, on workers, on women, on Philippines, and on neighborhood organizing. There's one on land and liberation, but we haven't, we are in the midst of finalizing who could lead that. And if we get somebody to lead that, then we'll have that caucus as well. At the same time in the afternoon is the Quakers faith-based rally, which is a peaceful gathering at 4:30 p.m., I believe. So they will be at the protest as well on 28th, but they also wanted to do for their bigger membership to do something that's more peaceful and not as rah as on May 28th. So those are the 2 days, 26th and 27th. And then May 28th, 7 a.m. is the major protest that we're asking everybody to show up for. Yeah.
Very, very good. Thank you very much. And we'll be promoting this idea, your schedule of activities at the May 24th conference of the Socialism.
Sure.
Capitalism can't be fixed. Socialism can do the
Okay.
fixing. And we will be
Thank
encouraging
you.
people to participate.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can send the posters for both May 28th, May 26th, and the Quakers one and the bus tour as one as well. They will be in the presentation as well that you want to share, but I can send it separately as well, Grace, so that it's easier to forward it to folks.
Yeah, if you can send us the most up-to-date version of the posters and the slides, we will definitely disseminate that very soon.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Laurel, last question in this part. Please take it away. Are you with us, Laurel?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll be very quick. I noticed on the list of members of CANSEC, University of Toronto, and I believe University of Ottawa. Would they be there because of their investments in weapons companies, or because they're actually helping to build weapons in their research programs? Do you happen to know why the universities are there?
I
Rachel,
can
you want to
speak to
answer?
the U of T piece if you want. So the University of Toronto was a huge surprise to us. Like a few months ago when info first started going up on the CANSEC website, we were like, excuse me, since when is U of Toronto, since when is University of Toronto a sponsor of CANSEC? So this is completely new
Wow.
as far as I know, and kind of a shocker. And U of T students, as you might imagine, are quite upset about it. And they actually have just launched like an open letter from groups of students, like different kind of student and faculty groups at the university to demand that U of T revoke their new sponsorship of CANSEC. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think based on kind of they put different levels of metallic colors next to different types of sponsors. Based on that kind of guessing, it's like at least tens of thousands of dollars or well over $10,000 that U of T has apparently sponsored with this year. Which, first of all, like why does the University of Toronto have that kind of money around to publicly sponsor an arms convention? But also, I think your question about like what does it show about their deeper relationship is really important. So there are all kinds of defense industry partnerships with the University of Toronto in kind of many different departments in many different ways, and they're chunks of different departments or programs that are named after weapons companies and are sponsored by them. So there's an underlying relationship there. But still, for the University of Toronto to put itself front and center as a sponsor of CANSEC, I think is deeply concerning. And I feel like I have more of an answer that I want to talk about in terms of U of T also now being a new champion of the new war bank. But maybe I'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
The thing that struck me too was that McGill was not in that list, and that I was surprised because they definitely invest, but then they also do military work too.
Mm-hmm.
So I was
Yeah, I mean it's on a comprehensive list. We just pick out
okay.
some names because there are 1,000, right? 1,000 plus memberships. I'm sure their name is there, but because we are Ottawa based, and so U of Ottawa has been on our radar. And then this whole Toronto thing was a surprise, so it's a new thing, so that's also on our radar. So that's why it's probably there. And and as Rachel says, so universities have like aerospace and aerodynamic programs, right? So that's funded by the defense people who graduate from those programs get jobs with D&D or in these weapons countries, right? So there are other digital and AI programs that again are sponsored and supported by these companies and D&D, the Department of National Defense, and then recruits people from there to work in their companies or work in their department. So not surprising that happens, but yeah, even the UFT thing, we received a research paper on it, and we're like, oh wow, they're like really proud of
Yeah.
sponsoring CANSEC. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Laurel. With that, we're going to pass it over to Rachel, where she will share her experience and knowledge around this. She's got lots of it. So, Rachel, please take it away.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just speak for a little bit because I there's lots of really cool folks in this room, and yeah, I want there to be time for more conversation and questions, etc. But yeah, I think I just kind of wanted to I take this opportunity to like zoom out a little bit from what Yasmin shared, because of course, as Yasmin also shared, like CANSEC happens in this broader context of Canadian militarism, and unfortunately, that context right now is of like a militarism on steroids. Like this ramp up of the war machine in Canada is like pretty unprecedented, at least since World War II. And I frankly am not the right type of researcher to make comparisons between many decades ago and now in terms of political context. But point being that we're talking right now about a quadrupling, at least of Canada's military budget, and really just like an alignment of our not just foreign policy, though even that is concerning enough, but also economic policy, domestic policy as being about war and militarism blatantly, not below the surface, maybe not some nefarious connections. Like Carney's just saying out loud, like this is how we will have prosperity in Canada is with policy based on war and militarism. And I mean, if that wasn't clear enough already in the first several months of his time in office, and there's been like, frankly, a military announcement almost every week. I am extremely, extremely lucky to be like an anti-war organizer as my day job. I'm the only staff person with World BMR in Canada, but like, so I get to do this work as my job. And even I have not been able to keep up with the military announcements every week from Carney. It's been overwhelming. But anyways, if it wasn't clear enough over this like flood of new military announcements every week over the past, he's now been in office a year. So in the first several months, I think it just couldn't be more laid bare than in just the past month or so. I mean, the Canadian government's just full-throated support for Israel and US's horrific and obviously wildly illegal bombings of Iran, starting a new regional war. Their refusal to act in the face of the US's invasion of Venezuela, ongoing starving of Cuba, and then basically the same week as the invasion of Iran, the Carney government roundly voting down just like a bare minimum effort, the No More Loopholes bill to start to regulate key gaps in Canada's arms export regimes. And then just a few weeks later, launching a new defense industrial strategy for Canada, which is literally about throwing around $500 billion to ramp up military production and arms exports to weaken this already dysfunctional arms export permitting process and just literally, like I said, banking Canada's future on economic prosperity through war profiteering. There's all kinds of promises in the defense industrial strategy that I won't necessarily get into. I mean, one of the outrageous ones is that we're going to ramp up Canadian arms exports by 50%. Which is, of course, what the business of CANSEC is, right? Like, so that list of, I don't know how many dozens of country delegations that I threw in the chat before, those are countries who are coming to CANSEC to go shopping, right? Like, there's literal tanks and drones and missiles, like, on the convention floor and out back at CANSEC as though they're shopping for, I don't know, air conditioners. Like, it's treated as though these are normal products and not weapons of genocide and of just like the worst crimes on the planet. And so Carney is promising to ramp up our arms exports by 50%. I mean, this is like morally bankrupt, and frankly, it's crazy at this moment where over the past 2 years, especially, like millions of people across Canada have become aware of just how horrific Canada's current arms export regime is. So now to be promising to ramp it up further, is completely morally bankrupt and completely out of touch with what people across the country say they want. But also, it's just complete financial nonsense. Like for him to say we're going to ramp up our exports to other countries by 50%, that's promising that other countries are going to buy that much more of our stuff at a time when those countries are also, unfortunately, ramping up their local production of weapons. So it's kind of like fantastical made up numbers, and it's really deeply concerning in terms of our foreign policy. And I mean, this in a moment, I've sort of alluded to just the horrifying arms exports that we and others have laid bare through, let's say, the arms embargo now campaign and other campaigns that have been used, weapons made in Canada and that have been used to commit genocide in Gaza. But also, just in the past couple months, allies of ours discovered Canadian weapons that were being used to bomb the Venezuelan boats by the US. An incredible piece of journalism in the Maple just last week revealed, and we were so honored to work with them on this really important article that I would urge people to look up, and I can put the link in the chat later, but reveals all kinds of Canadian made weapons that are currently being used to bomb Iran. I gave a talk in Barrie, Ontario last week, and folks there knew they had a Raytheon plant right near them. And Raytheon is, of course, one of the world's biggest weapons companies, but had no clue. And how could they? That at that plant, like in Simcoe County, right near them, parts of the Tomahawk missiles turn out to be made. This was the missile that was dropped on the Manab school in Iran the very first day of those attacks. So I'm not being hyperbolic when I'm saying that Canadian weapons and components are being used in just the absolute worst and most horrific acts of violence on the planet. So that's the current situation, and he's talking about ramping it up. And I mean, I think sometimes either the sort of unstated implication or sometimes it's said overtly is that, well, unfortunately, this is just what's needed to protect us from the US, right? And there's all kinds of arguments about sovereignty. But even for folks who aren't nationalist or who maybe don't believe in this like uncritical idea of Canadian sovereignty, it's fair to be scared of the US and to be scared of Trump. And he's made pretty blatant threats around attacking Canada in various ways. So I really understand how that kind of a fear can make you feel like, oh, well, maybe this isn't what I would want our country to be spending money on, but like this is what's needed. And I think they're really leaning into that. But unfortunately, when you actually look at what's happening, it's the opposite of anything that could ever protect us from the US. This is instead an enormous gift to Trump. And it's Canada doing like precisely what Trump demanded Canada do. Like he literally demanded that Canada triple its military spending in this way, and us doing so is deeply a gift to Trump. And I mean, there's lots that I could kind of go into to explain why that is the case. I think some of the biggest evidence of that is that what this ramp up of militarism and military budgets is going to be spent on is like literal US weapons systems, like Lockheed Martin's F-35 fighter jets, the like infamous most advanced warplane that has been used really extensively, for example, by Israel to decimate thousands of people in their tents in Gaza, but also even like Canadian weapon systems, like this huge warship contract that was given to the Irvings, very wealthy Canadian family, obviously. Turns out those warships literally cannot be operated without ongoing cooperation with the US military. So like the idea that this spending is to defend us from the US like is kind of just unfortunately a total farce. And I mean, that's not even to mention projects like the Golden Dome, which Carney is now wanting Canada to participate in as well, which is like, I don't know really how else to describe it other than like a dangerous delusion that Trump has of like a missile shield that would exist over the US and presumably over Canada too if we spend tens of billions of dollars to join it. But it's just based on completely non-existent technology, and it would require us to put missiles in space for the first time on planet Earth. So clearly this is a smart idea that Canada should jump on. And I mean, frankly, anyone who is concerned about aggression from the US, which is of course the country that has been aggressive to the most countries on Earth. So there are many countries in the world who are concerned about aggression from the US. It's hard to imagine how they would see US putting missiles in space as anything other than a threat and a provocation. And I mean, like this is 100% a clear path to even more accelerate a global arms race, to militarize space. It's like so dystopian that it's almost hard, I find, to talk about the Golden Dome, but this is like the type of project that this radical ramp up of Canadian military spending would be going towards, and sort of yet another reason why this isn't to protect us from the US militarily. And also, they're also, I don't think there is an industry in Canada besides the war industry that is as connected to the US economy. Like the majority of Canadian weapons companies are actually branches of US arms companies. Like there just is no real argument to be made as to why this ramp up does anything other than further entangle us into Trump's war making and the US war machine. And I mean, just to maybe share one more bit of good news, because I'm obviously full of it tonight. Just 2 weeks ago, it was announced that Canada would be the global host of the new DSRB War Bank. War Bank is our word, not theirs, but that's what it is. It's like a new, basically NATO financial institution, a global bank that is intended to channel public funds and private investment directly into the arms industry because clearly they don't have enough money, but also because our movements have had a lot of wins. And for example, when the arms industry sees something like how enormous mobilization and organizing by folks all across Canada over the past 2 years forced Elbit's biggest foreign investor to sell all shares, which was, of course, Scotiabank. That scares them. So they want to make sure there's a less, I mean, I'm not going to call Scotiabank's investments democratic, but like an even less publicly influenceable means of affecting investment and a less democratic process of how war investment happens than the Canadian Parliament. Because right now, and again, I'm not going to say this is a particularly functional or democratic process, but war budgets are part of the country's budget and do get debated and need to be voted on by elected officials in Parliament. This is moving many of those decisions out of even Parliament and into private boardrooms, probably in Toronto, because Toronto is really the city, it seems like that they want the global headquarters of this new war bank to be in. So I mean, just like CANSEC is I would say CANSEC and its attendees are really a who's who of who will actually benefit from this war bank. And I mean, to come back to around to a point Yasmin made right off the bat, and I think Barry made it as well, like the war bank, I think is like the connection of capitalism and war, but just to the max on steroids. Like this is just removing any separation from financialization and yeah, any kind of global economic processes with war. And the goal is to make it a much more safe-seeming investment for anyone who still thinks investing in arms manufacturers is risky. So yeah, just to wrap up, I guess I would say this is a really important time to be an anti-war organizer, to be involved in these struggles, to be having these conversations. I mean, I think that unfortunately, these decisions that are coming out every week are not short-term decisions. Like just like when we build a pipeline, which Carney is also currently trying to do, this is not like a just-in-case measure, right? Like you're building pipelines in order to use them, in order to move oil, in order to entrench a future of oil extraction and climate crisis. So similarly, I would say the decisions Canada is making right now to buy these new warships and fighter jets and the Golden Dome and to launch and host a new war bank. This is like entrenching a foreign policy for decades for Canada that's based on a commitment to wage war with these weapons systems. This is Canada deciding that when we have any kind of conflict or disagreement or whatever with global partners, well, now we have the tools that we're going to use to address it. I'm going to butcher the expression, but what's the expression? Like if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. I think that once they have spent billions upon billions and billions on these fighter jets, on these new armed drones, on these submarines, on whatever, they have to justify them by using them, right? So suddenly a problem in the world. Oh, look, this is how we're gonna address it. So yeah, this is Carney promising a war-filled future, but I think that this also, he's made it so stark that this is a really powerful moment, I think, to draw the line against that, to stand up to it. I think this is a really critical moment to reject Canada's commitment to profiteering from perpetual war in the guise of economic development. And that's what CANSEC is about. That's what this war bank is about. And so I think we need to refuse to let these arms dealers gather in our cities, whether it's with their tanks that they're showing off at CANSEC or whether it's by setting up new war bank headquarters in Toronto. Um, like we can't let them prosper while the people who are in our cities and around the world are suffering. So I think it's just I'm so glad to be having this conversation tonight about rising up to reject this militarism and to shut down CANSEC. It shouldn't be happening in Ottawa. It shouldn't be happening in Canada. And it shouldn't be happening, frankly, on this planet.
Thank you, Rachel, so much. That was very informative, and I think you made a very compelling argument, obviously, of why what Mark Carney's doing and attaching Canada to the hip to what seems like a declining empire led by a fascist sex pest, right? So that's kind of just where the world's at right now. It is, like you said, dystopian, but that really emphasizes the need for discussions like this and shutting down CANSEC. So thank you both again to our speakers. We're going to move to some more Q&A. So please, if you have questions, use the raise hand function and we will get you in here. We've got another question from Fargo. Fargo, if you want to unmute.
Hello again. I hope you guys can hear me. There's some banging beats in the background. Rachel, thank you so much for your presentation. I wanted to know, we had a presentation by Tamara Lawrence a few weeks ago, and she touched on both the upcoming CANSEC convention, the War Bank, and I wanted to know, she also mentioned something that I thought was really insidious and interesting, and that would be the Joint Expeditionary Forces. And I wanted to know if you'd found any relations between CANSEC, this upcoming convention, between this convention and the JEF, the JEF, the new offshoot covert NATO that's being put together, and it looks like Canada is involved in a way as well.
I'm afraid I don't know much of that. I also couldn't hear, to be honest, the second half of your question. I don't know if you heard more, Yasmin.
No, I couldn't hear the name that you mentioned. I know about the joint military exercises that happen all the time. The recent one just happened in the Indo-Pacific in Philippines between US, Australia, Japan, and even Canada. And Canada had like 600 soldiers on the ground on those exercises. So ILPS and Shutdown CANSEC also works with the US-led Resist US-led War Network, and they have a whole campaign on joint military exercises as well. In Canada, haven't, not to my knowledge, we haven't really uh, developed more sort of education around that yet. But but the name you were mentioning, the acronym, I couldn't hear it, Fargo. Like, so I'm not sure.
It's the joint. Sorry, I just having a delicious meal. It's the Joint Expeditionary Forces. It is a offshoot of NATO, and Tamara she was under the impression that this is going to be the covert arm of the NATO powers, uh,
Mm.
a new arm of neo-colonial military strike teams.
Yeah, I don't know much about like Canada's plans around that. I mean, I know that to be um something that like a dozen or so European countries participate in. I think the UK kind of heads it up, but I know that Canada does all kinds of like training and drills and exercises with all of those members, and obviously is trying to make stronger military connections. And financial ones with Europe in all kinds of ways. So I actually unfortunately don't know anything about Canada joining it, if that's what you were suggesting. But Tamara is obviously,
Hmm.
super super up to date, and I wish I had caught the talk with her because I'm sure she knows all kinds of interesting things that are coming down the pipeline.
Hmm.
Thank you. We'll pass it over to Yuri next.
Thanks, Grace, and thanks to Capitalism Can't Be Fixed, always Always great these events. Rachel, very quick question. Can you please tell us what's happening with the lawfare that's going on against you and the suppression of free speech that you and a couple of other comrades were linked in? And Ms. Khan, in the interest of helping out Comrade Ted, talk to us about the Quaker-led protest that's happening against CANSEC, which I think might be a good fit for Ted in terms of being, not too overwhelmed by, protest and, the kind of violence that the state often meets with the folks that do that.
Yeah, thanks, Yuri. Thanks for asking. So, I mean, as has been mentioned earlier in a few different ways and is maybe obvious based on one of CANSEC's demands, like there's just been this huge um, waves of criminalization of those standing up to Canadian military violence and standing up in solidarity with Palestine, which has looked like a lot of the same thing, like fighting against Canadian complicity in the violence against Palestinians, etc., all across Canada, but especially across Ontario. And I have lost track, but I think we're looking at least 200 people who have been charged in the Toronto area for Palestine solidarity related protest in the past 2 years, which is like a wild number of humans to be dragged through this process. So yeah, I was arrested in connection with a protest that happened at another arms fair. It turns out Canada has a few. CANSEC is by far the largest, and there's also a fairly large one in Halifax. There was a fairly small one in London, but that was still sponsored and attended by Elbit and like many of the villains that have been named and that we know about. And about 100 or so folks caught them completely by surprise. Unlike CANSEC, this was not a previously announced protest. They were very surprised when they showed up to folks blocking the door to their arms conference. And there was a lot of military folks in attendance, and it was pouring rain. They weren't wearing their jackets. They thought they were just going to kind of enter via the overground passageway from their hotel, and they in fact could not. So there were a lot of folks looking like kind of drowned cats outside their arms convention. Very, very fun to see that. But anyways, about a month later, there were coordinated raids at 5 different houses in 5 different cities across Ontario, and mine was one of them. And they woke me and my family up in the middle of the night. They were like, or it was not actually the middle of the night. It was 6 a.m., but 6 a.m. in December feels like the middle of the night. And yeah, it was about 10 cops in my house. And they seized all of my electronics, computers and phones and hard drives and all of that kind of stuff and drove me to London. And so then the past 5 months has been all of us dealing with these charges, which is a lot of waiting and a lot of spending a full day in Zoom court once a month for you to get your 2 minutes where the judge calls you up and they just basically tell you to come back next month. So it's a process that is scary on the day that you get arrested, and then after that is extraordinarily boring. And we're waiting right now to see what is the evidence they have of our supposed crimes. And we're mounting a collective defense, which means that all of us are committed to fighting this together and ensuring everyone is supported through the process and not letting them kind of divide and conquer, which is what they do. And we are finding out lots of really interesting things, I'll just say, about how Ontario policing happens, about how coordination across jurisdictions happens, about how they understand political protest, how they use Israeli military and surveillance tech to surveil activists and to break into various devices. I'm very excited for the point down the line where we can share a lot of this stuff publicly when it's no longer confidential. So using this as an experience to learn about, yeah, what are the ways that the state aligns itself with the war machine. I think it's important to note in the context of CANSEC that the police and certainly the RCMP, but also local police forces are are customers of CANSEC. So they not only are outside to try to shut down the protest, but from their perspective, it's like we're blocking their shopping mall. So they also have just this like personal attachment and alignment with who is in there. So as you can imagine, the police are not a huge fan of people protesting outside CANSEC. I think that concerns about going to this protest are totally justified. I think what Yasmin said makes total sense in that there's places that you can be that minimize risk and other spots that are riskier, and people should take on the risk that makes sense to them. But I wouldn't call it a family-friendly protest. It's not a low-key, chill kind of thing. Like it's a pretty intense day, and it's not for everyone. And I think there's like lots of ways to show up in this movement that don't mean that you have to go to the most stressful um, on their turf kind of protest. That said, for those who can go, I don't know if there's a bigger concentration of just like the worst people on the planet in one spot in Canada on the same day. So I think it's like a really good place to be. But maybe I'm leading into what you were going to answer, Yasmin, about other opportunities.
Yeah, no worries. I shared the Quakers poster in there. So so they're calling it a vigil. I think it's at 4:30. They're also doing sort of a meet the day before on 26th, a dinner. So Ted, that would be good to maybe go to the dinner and connect with folks who will be going next day to the vigil. And there's an email as well there that folks can directly reach out to. So that folks can connect with each other instead of just showing up by yourself. It's good to go together to that place instead of just being by yourself and waiting for people to join. So from past years' protests, that's our experience. It's good to go together in numbers and also leave together in numbers.
Sorry, can I just add two more things I forgot to say? One thing that I meant to say about criminalization is what helps this feel like an annoying and stressful process of criminalization, but then what we're going to get through and we're going to come out the other side is like collective support. So that looks like people showing up on the day of arrests and rallying outside police stations and making sure people have food and looking out for each other. And it really means fundraising and donating to legal funds. So I think it's amazing
Funds, yeah.
that CANSEC this year has set up a defense fund well ahead of time. I know most people will only donate at the moment that they hear about arrests, and that's fine, but you all have been told about it beforehand. So please, now is actually a great time to make sure there's that money in the fund. And that's what makes sure that people can feel okay. Like when I was released in London at night in my pajamas, because I'd been taken at 6 a.m. that morning from my house, there were people there ready for me who like bought me a new phone so I could figure out how to get home. And like we're just there with all kinds of support, and like that takes individuals showing up. That also takes like collective projects like legal funds. And the other thing I wanted to say that I was thinking before, but I couldn't think of the quote, is that quote by the incredible labor organizer Utah Phillips: "The earth is not dying, it is being killed, and those who are killing it have names and addresses." So in this case, those who are killing it are all going to be in Ottawa on May 28th. So it's a good time to meet them there.
Thank you, Rachel. We're wishing you the best of luck with your situation. Could you please, if you have a link to the legal aid, if there's a GoFundMe link or wherever that is, please share that in the chat. And maybe we can also send that out, disseminate that through email afterwards as well, if you could share that.
Sure. I'm trying to find it. I don't have it hand ready, but I will send it with everything that I will send, unless you have a quick access to it, Rachel.
Yeah, I'll throw it in the chat in a minute. It's still being managed. Yeah, like the one that's being managed by Labor for Palestine. I can pull up the info. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. And it's great that there's so much mutual aid and critical support going on. That's very important to see. Yes, so we'll share that when we can. But next, I'll pass it to Barbara. Barbara, if you want to go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, thanks for the excellent presentations. I'm going to make a comment and suggestion to people, if you don't mind. I'm an organizer for Capitalism Can't Be Fixed and an organizer for ILPS in Canada. And yeah, as Rachel was saying, this is a meeting of the worst of humanity. It's a big meeting that exposes the military-industrial complex. It exposes what the Canadian state and capitalist class are all about and what they're doing, and it needs to be opposed. So congratulations on all the organizing to make this even a bigger and more stronger set of protests this year. So I'll just suggest to people that they share the information and try to protest wherever they are. Can't all go to Ottawa, but Yasmin has provided a lot of information, her slides and links to other things. And you could take some of that information, maybe put it in paper form to hand out or present the slides. Also, this educational video will be recorded, as all of ours have been recorded, and they'll be on our Capitalism Can't Be Fixed YouTube channel very soon. So you can take that and use that to present to other people, share with other people. In Vancouver, we have a local committee to organize a protest against CANSEC on the same day on May 28th in downtown east side of Vancouver. I'll be sharing information for the supporters who live out in that area. We have a committee from ILPS and friends who are going to have kind of a demonstration and be leafleting. And so you could do that even in a small way, have a couple of signs or have create some leaflets with the information available and go somewhere busy, talk to people, share them, because more people in Canada ought to know that this kind of thing is going on. You know, we kind of get fed a lot of pablum and a lot of happy pictures of Canada life, and there's a Canadian nationalism that presents Canada in a very whitewashed version. And so there's a big effort to try to hide all this stuff and what it really means from the people. So the more that we can do on such a significant event on CANSEC, the better. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, social media engagement, also good. The Instagram link, I believe, was shared previously in the chat. And on the point of the YouTube uploads, I've been asked about this. I personally don't have access to it. My understanding is with Jasmine away, she can't currently upload it, but that will be done as soon as possible, just for people's reference. Yeah.
After May 20th.
There we go. All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Sorry, I don't actually have the info right now about the donation to the Ottawa Community Defense Fund. I thought I did, but I actually don't either. I'm sorry, Yasmin. But maybe we can follow up with that by email. I did mean to say that we're also organizing carpools and accommodation from Toronto to go to CANSEC. So if folks in the Toronto area or who can get to Toronto, yeah, want information on carpooling to CANSEC with us. We've got a registration form up now for that.
Is there a link to that?
Yes. That I do have the link for, and I will throw in the chat.
Yeah, for the defense fund, I asked the group, so I'll just send a package of everything, Grace. Presentation, all the posters and all the links, and then we can send it out to everybody.
That's perfect. There we go. The CANSEC carpool link was just shared in the chat. Thank you, Rachel.
Let me try that again. It auto-corrected it incorrectly.
Oh.
There we go.
Awesome. Thank you. And yes, reminder, we will be disseminating that. Just like you said, Yasmin, of course. We've got 15 minutes left here. We've got one more hand up. Yuri, if you want to ask your question.
Yeah, just wanted to say, Rachel, you got nothing but love, solidarity, and infinite compassion from all of us. So solidarity forever, and I hope that you and the others come out full swinging. And I do actually want to plug your organization, World Beyond War. Last week, there was a fantastic event. It was an all female panelists from Voices from Lebanon and Palestine that folks should also check out and donate generously to World Beyond War if you can. So just wanted to also say that.
Thanks, Yuri. That's so kind of you.
Awesome. Oh, we got another hand up. Jean, if you want to ask your question or give comment.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
All right. Just vis-a-vis this World War Bank idea, I don't know if Rachel or Jasmine can share any, further information on it, but if it's in some way tied in with our major commercial banks, that might be a great opportunity to move your account when you when that information becomes available as to who they're being funded by, unless it's by the government itself. So just want to throw that into the hopper.
Yeah, thank you. And I should have said that so I just dropped the link in the chat. We've got like a very basic website set up for the campaign to stop the war bank. Unfortunately, all of 5 major banks in Canada have come out in support of it, which makes sense. Banks love banks. But unfortunately, also, as I mentioned, U of T and TMU and like many other institutions in Canada, Olivia Chow is for it. Doug Ford is all speaking for it. Like everyone right now who is a mainstream institution in Toronto, is very in favor of the war bank. However, we have a growing coalition of folks who are not. We have an open letter that organizations can sign on to across the country. We managed to launch it a couple weeks before the announcement was made that Canada would host it, and then it's grown since. What I'm excited about is that the organizations, a lot of them who have signed on are, I mean, we welcome all anti-war groups everywhere, of course, to sign on, but a lot of the ones who did are from totally other sectors, but are realizing that the cuts to healthcare and daycare and housing and everything else like are directly linked. Like money is being stolen from the things we actually need from our security to go into projects like this war bank. I was at some anti-Doug Ford protests in Toronto recently and saw a bunch of signs that were like scrawled on cardboard, not like mass produced, that were like drop fees, not bombs. Like I think people are seeing all kinds of different connections between the issues they're fighting for and the use of all of our resources for war. So yeah, I would invite orgs across the country to sign on to the open letter rejecting the war bank. What was fun about getting it out ahead of the war bank announcement is that then we were included in like the Globe and Mail, Toronto Star, CBC's, etc. reporting. I mean, the reporting was very like, yay, Canada chosen for the war bank, but then we did at least get a few lines in there that are like, some critics are pointing out that. So that was a start. There's an incredible deep dive article in the Maple last week that like really goes into the different groups opposing the war bank and what that's about. And the Breach show this week is also focused on the resistance to the war bank. So this is like just kind of picking up now because this announcement has just been made about it. The next announcement we can expect is which city will be chosen to host it, and we are. I mean, in theory, it could be another city. It really seems like Toronto is the front runner. So we're working with folks all across the city to try to get ready to mobilize against it because we do not need this in our city.
Mm-hmm. So for the Legal Defense Fund, they don't have a link, but they shared the email and that where the email transfer can go, and just in the message to say community defense, so they know what it's for.
Perfect. Should we include that in the dissemination package? Okay, perfect. We
Yeah.
will do that. And someone has just helpfully shared the Maple's recent article on the war bank. So thank you, Kathy, for that. Just opening to the floor again. I don't see any raised hands. I'll take this moment to remind people of the Capitalism Can't Be Fixed conference in Toronto on May 24th. Yeah, it was shared previously in the chat, but just a reminder, May 24th. It's going to be a busy end of May, it sounds like, for lots of people. So Lots of organizing to do there. So with absent any other questions or anything like that, unless either of our two speakers wanted to give closing remarks or anything. Awesome. Looks like we're good. I think with that, we might call it there. Thank you everyone so much for showing up. This is such an important thing at such an important time. Yeah, lots of love and solidarity in the chat. Thank you to our speakers, Rachel and Yasmin. You've been fantastic. Yeah, let's shut down CANSEC. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. We're going to close out the meeting there.